Hi, it's Josh with RIB Radio, and this is a message from author C.J. Lovik on the word Jerusalem. Listen as C.J. Lovik explores the word from its ancient pictographic roots. You may think you understand what the word Jerusalem means in Hebrew, but this may surprise you.
Modern Jerusalem is a city and the capital of Israel, an ancient holy city and the center of pilgrimage for Jews, Christians, and Muslims. It was divided between Israel and Jordan in 1948. The Jordanian sector was annexed by Israel after the 1967 war. Jerusalem has been the capital of Israel since 1950. The first time we find Jerusalem mentioned in Scripture is in Joshua 10:1. Now it came to pass, when Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, had heard how Joshua had taken Ai, and had utterly destroyed it, as he had done to Jericho and her king, so he had done to Ai and her king, and how the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were among them. The first time Jerusalem is mentioned in Joshua 10:1, it is ruled by a pagan king named Adoni-Zedek. He is not just an ordinary pagan king. He is one of 22 giants mentioned in the Scriptures. By the time you get to the 43rd chapter of Joshua chapter 10, Jerusalem is no longer ruled by the wicked king Adoni-Zedek. What happened in between is one of the most exciting and miraculous accounts in all of Scripture. There is no question that Joshua, as recorded in Joshua 10:1-43, has prophetic implications that are harbingers of the last days, the final days before the coming of Messiah to set up his millennial kingdom. Listen to some of the strange and supernatural events that took place as recorded in the book of Joshua chapter 10. Some of the elements of the account in Joshua 10 include the sun and the moon standing still, the kings of the earth hiding in caves, the destruction of the corrupted pagans by hailstones, and the siege of Jerusalem. Do any of these things sound strangely familiar? If you read the book of Revelation, you will find many parallel accounts that God promises to unfold in the terminal generation, that generation that occupies the earth just prior to the coming of Messiah. And before you start feeling too sorry for all the wicked inhabitants of Jerusalem that were destroyed by Joshua, keep in mind that these kingdoms that came against Israel were corrupted. They weren't just morally corrupted, they actually had their DNA corrupted and were themselves hybridized, part human, part Nephilim. They had become unrecognizable to the Creator, as they were creatures He had not created. Keep in mind that pattern is prophecy. Jesus told us that in the last days they would be like the days of Noah. In other words, mankind would have again corrupted himself or been corrupted by fallen angels and demons. I would encourage you to read it for yourself and connect the dots to the headlines that are now unfolding regarding present-day Jerusalem. We can read the headlines in any paper, in any capital of the world, and find the fulfillment of end times prophecies. Prophecies that are unique to the last 70 years of this present age. Prophecies that center around Israel and Jerusalem. In other words, prophecies that could not be fulfilled until the children of Israel miraculously returned to the land of Israel and again occupied Jerusalem. Prophecies that could not have been fulfilled between 70 AD and 1948. Prophecies that could only be unfolded once Israel was reestablished in one day as a nation, just like foretold in Isaiah 66:8. Listen to what the prophet says. Who hath heard of such a thing? Who hath seen such things? Shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day, or shall a nation be born at once? For as soon as Zion travailed, she brought forth her children. This prophecy was further fulfilled when Israel gained possession of their most precious earthly inheritance, Jerusalem. And what is in store for Jerusalem now that God has brought back his people to the land? The prophecy that you can read in any paper in any capital of the world, a headline published by God and reported by his prophet Zechariah in 580 BC, nearly 2,500 years ago. Listen to the headline. Zechariah 12:2-3. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about. when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. And in that day I will make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the nations of the earth be gathered together against it. The battle for Jerusalem, one of the oldest and most contested piece of real estate in history of the world, did not begin with the First Crusades sanctioned by Pope Urban XI in 1095 AD. The battle for Jerusalem is ancient and very significant, as you're about to discover. In Genesis 4:18, it makes the first mention of a city called Salem. Most Jewish commentators believe this refers to Jerusalem, ruled by King Melchizedek. The name Melchizedek is mentioned in both the Old and the New Testament and is believed to be a shadow type of the Messiah. His name is reported to mean, "My king is righteous." According to the Midrash, Jewish tradition, Jerusalem was founded by Shem and Eber, the forefathers of Abraham. This would put the founding of Jerusalem immediately after the worldwide flood of Noah. This would put the founding of the city of Jerusalem somewhere around 2700 BC. According to the Bible, the Israelites' history connected with Jerusalem began in 1000 BC. King David occupied Jerusalem. Biblical evidence for temporarily destroying the city of Jerusalem is recorded much earlier in Joshua, as we just read. Joshua is reported to have conquered the city and killed its king shortly after entering the Promised Land. But Joshua did not occupy Jerusalem, and it remained under the control of the Jebusites until the 7th year, or the reign of King David, who captured and inhabited the city for the last 33 years of his reign. In 1 Kings 2:11, this is what it reports. And the days that David reigned over Israel were 40 years. 7 years reigned he in Hebron, and 33 years reigned he in Jerusalem. While there may be a disagreement about which city is the oldest city in the world based on continuous habitation, that city probably being Damascus, there is no question that Jerusalem is the most contested. During its long history, Jerusalem has been destroyed twice, besieged 23 times, attacked 52 times, captured and recaptured 44 times. The Bible first mentions Jerusalem in the 10th chapter of Joshua. This account holds a secret for understanding the hidden meaning and the prophetic significance of Jerusalem, as we will discover in the pictorial and numeric meaning that is the foundation for the Hebrew word Jerusalem. You cannot begin to fathom the enormous significance of Jerusalem until you understand one overarching reality. It is the stunning reality that Abraham first glimpsed. It was a vision that seeded and watered his faith. It was a vision that made God smile on Abraham and bless him above all men. And what was that vision that bolstered his faith and made God smile with pleasure? Abraham saw himself as a pilgrim in this world and had his eyes not on any earthly city, but on a city whose maker and builder was God. Listen to what it says in Hebrews 11:8-10. By faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out not knowing whither he went. By faith he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he looked for a city which hath foundations, whose builder and maker is God. In Hebrews 11, verses 13-16, we read the following. These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them far off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned. But now they desire a better country, that is, an heavenly. Wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he hath prepared for them a city. And what was the name of the city that Abraham was envisioning by faith? What is the name of the city that God has prepared for those that were strangers and pilgrims on the earth? What was the blessed vision of those that received the promises of God by faith? The answer is found in the last book of the Scriptures. In Revelations 3:12 we read this. Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my God. And in Revelation 21:2 we read, And John saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God, out of the heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And finally, in Revelation 21:10 we read, And he carried me away in the Spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God. So what is the future for Jerusalem prior to the New Jerusalem descending upon the earth from heaven? The Scriptures foretell the glorious end of the earthly city called Jerusalem. Jerusalem, we are told, will be established in peace and righteousness for 1,000 years. And what will Jerusalem be called in this 1,000-year period where Jerusalem is the capital of the entire world? The answer is found in Jeremiah 3:17. And at that time they shall call Jerusalem the throne of the Lord, and all the nations shall be gathered unto it. To the name of the Lord, to Jerusalem, neither shall they walk any more after the imagination of their evil heart.
And if that was a blessing to you, let us know. Leave a comment or send us a message. Also, check out the other videos on the site. There's a number of other word studies. Subscribe to our mailing list. And if you want to look into this a little bit more deeply, you can get the book. You can get it at livingwordin3d.com or rockonthebooks.com.